Today's idea is the original idea of a big identity net. How to make people feel a meaningful part of something. What makes someone feel like they belong? Like they are included? How do you build a team, a movement? And lastly, how can you simply be more persuasive? Today we'll be exploring how the answer to these common questions often can be found in a tool called the Big Identity Net. It's how you can make people feel a meaningful part of something. Welcome to Original and Powerful Ideas. My name is Troy Hedu Campbell, and I use a scientific mind, artistic heart approach to capture original and powerful ideas so you can apply them in your own pursuits. I've spent my life understanding the science and theory behind how humans think and behave and applying those ideas artistically and practically as an applied Duke behavioral science PhD, former Disney Imagineer, Oregon professor, and consultant for Nike, Netflix, and many more. Across this podcast, we'll be exploring together original and powerful ideas captured in many different forms that are meant to be new and relevant to you, whether you are a world-class innovator, a scrappy upstart, or just a curious person with some headphones on. Today's idea is the original idea of a big identity net. And the episode is going to be in the form of a book-worthy idea. As you'll find, I love capturing a big, original, and powerful idea in the style of a book. But instead of writing 300 repetitive-ish pages, I present them as short, colorful book summaries that have everything great books should have. A bold thesis, a fun title, a cool anecdote, lots of inspirations from science and art, tips for using, and most importantly, a deeply defined model that is broadly applied across many examples and case studies to help you apply the idea powerfully in your own pursuits. I may write some of these ideas as books one day, but for now, I present them here on this podcast and in detailed text forms at HeiduKaus.com. Inspiration. So lots of times when we looked at brands, organizations, or even movements, we see them doing something that seems like a slogan, but seems to be something additionally powerful. For instance, when Nike says, "If you have a body, you're an athlete," there's a sense of greater belonging and inclusion. When GWD Trivia defines itself as geeks who drink, so many people go to those trivias and feel at home. What's going on here is something beyond a slogan that is channeling powers like community, belonging, and identity. The idea. The big identity net. An identity definition that is big enough that many people can feel a part of it, but also specific enough that it brings a sense of meaning and identity. The applications. So many successful big and small brands, activist movements, and organizations have purposely created or stumbled onto a type of big identity net. Not all big identity nets look the same, but they all are doing the same thing. Making people feel a part of something by appealing to an identity that the person usually already has. Apple famously created an entire 1-minute big identity net, where in their Think Different campaign, the narrator went on and on, defining this type of think different person as the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. The power of the big identity net applies beyond brands. Math teachers reach skeptical students by saying, "If you like problem solving, you're a math person." Many of my applied improvisational friends reach nervous audiences with big identity nets like, "Everyone improvises every day." And some of the most successful activists have succeeded through big identity nets. such as for those that care about their neighbors, or simple short ones like Good Samaritans or Friends of the Earth. The Why. This book is built on the realization that humans are guided by their sense of identity. Instead of asking, is this a good thing, a cool thing, the right thing, or the best thing, humans often just ask, is this me? Am I the type of person that does this? Does this fit with my identity? We tend to choose items and engage in behaviors we feel are consistent with our sense of identity. The psychologist William Swan published a lot about this in his 1990s research on self-verification theory. And in follow-up research by many behavioral scientists like myself, we have further applied the science of identity to consumer, artistic, and political contexts, continually finding its powerful influence on people's thinking and decision-making. A complication. Applying the big identity net is not always easy. And this book covers some of the complications and strategies for application. For instance, one of Disney's big identity nets is everyone has a Disney side. It's not everyone is a Disney person. That may be too intense and not believable. But everyone has a Disney side may be more believable and more effective. Especially when in their advertisements, they seek to prove that everyone does have a Disney side. By showing a Star Wars-obsessed dad saying, "I am your father," in a welding mask to his children. Or a middle-class mom who's interested in aquariums and the idea of mermaids. Or visually giving business persons a goofy side silhouette as they walk by a wall, talking on their cell phone. Summary. In sum, a big identity net can be an essential strategy that channels the powers of identity to persuade, create community, and foster feelings of inclusion. If you want people to feel a meaningful part of something, whether you are selling a product, a form of education, or the most important social movement of our time, a big identity net can go a long way. All right, so that's the big identity net. It's a pretty simple idea as far as this podcast goes, but I thought it would be a good idea for an early introductory episode to briefly help portal you in to what this podcast will be. And it also gives me a perfect excuse to end this episode with one last apply by making a big identity net for you that will explain more about what this podcast can and will be. So here are 2 big identity nets for you. Number 1, a curious person with some headphones on. This is the one that is used at the start of the podcast, and I think it is a definition that really unites my audience. That ranges from the most advanced innovators at their workplace to the most curious person in their friend group. Curious people are defined here as people who are more curious than critical. These people apply this by looking for the value in ideas. And curious people understand that no single idea is flawless, and no original ideas are completely original, but they enjoy looking for what is powerful and original in ideas. And number 2, scientific mind, artistic heart. Or to put it more like a big identity net, for those with a bit of a scientific mind and an artistic heart. I truly believe this is a big identity net. I've been overjoyed to have found so many people come up to me to tell me, that's me, that explains how I think. I just never had the words for it. That's me. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an artist, but I have a bit of a scientific mind and an artistic heart. But I'm also saddened that so many people have also told me, that's why I don't feel like I belong in most places. I feel I never get to be both or even one of those at work or in conversations. And further, people explain how they struggle to find the readings and insights that honestly and effectively oscillate between scientific precision and artistic license. to produce the type of original and powerful ideas that people are really looking for and really need. And in every episode of this podcast, the scientific mind, artistic heart approach is intentionally applied to create original or original-ish ideas like the big identity net, an example of an idea that is not completely scientific. It's an idea inspired by a lot of science. I approached labeling and defining the phenomenon in some precise science-minded ways, but it is not complete or proper science. On this podcast, I explore ideas where defining and applying the idea will require more than one way of knowing, such as in the complicated ideas that lie at the intersection of design, story, experience, community, identity, persuasion, psychology, and even the elusive concepts of cool, modern culture, and creativity. And with each of these ideas, I hope to bring joy, originality, and power to curious people with some headphones on, to people with a bit of a scientific mind and an artistic heart everywhere. I hope you feel like you belong here. Troy. This podcast is a part of Hajduk House. The Hajduk House model is to put original and powerful ideas out into the world for free to reach 3 audiences: curious people, collaborators, and clients. Curious people are the people that enjoy the ideas and find them useful in their own pursuits. Scientific mind, artistic heart. Collaborators are people that want to make awesome stuff that use or relate to the ideas. Hit me up, cool people. And clients are the people and companies that want to hire Hajduk House for unique innovation, consulting, talks, and training. With original ideas comes original results. I created Hajduk House so I could engage with the most interesting ideas and the most interesting people, always with a scientific mind and an artistic heart approach. You can learn more about this idea as well as many other original and powerful ideas at hajdukhouse.com. Hajduk is my middle name and is spelled Hiduke. There you will also find ideas captured in more artistic and playful forms, such as lyrics, fiction, and idea pitches, as well as find ways to contact me and this podcast. Thank you for being here for one of the first episodes. If you want to do something immediately, send me your favorite big identity nets that you've seen or the ones that you have or will create. Once again, I hope you feel like you belong here.